Welcome and great to have you in this session. Today we continue with the Move to Cloud ERP Practical Guide, the free webcast series that provides a comprehensive overview on why the cloud ERP transformation is essential for companies, how it can be successfully implemented, and what support is available to accelerate your transformation journey. Starting from today, we have scheduled 25 weekly live sessions structured around why, how, and what, targeting global audience. Make sure you are registered and get access to the collections of essays such as recordings, PDFs, and other formats, as well as updates on the topics. I will post the full schedule of the series later in the chat. Today, we start with why and talk about key differentiators and benefits of SAP S/4HANA. We have Michael Della with us, who is Chief Solution Expert, SAP S/4HANA Solution Management and SAP, and he will lead us through the session. My name is Larissa Brinkmann from the SAP Global User Groups organization, and I'm your host. Please post your questions via Q&A tool, and we will be happy to answer them. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to the registrants of the series. But now let's get started. We would like to open the session with a short poll that I activate for you right now. And the question that we would like to ask is, what is your current status with regards to SAP S/4HANA? We appreciate you share your answer. I will keep the poll for 2 minutes, and then we can take a look at the results. And of course, Michael will be happy then to take over. So I can see that there are more answers coming in. That's great. So please be active. So maybe another half a minute, 30 seconds or so. We can see the answers coming in. So 10 more seconds. So I think we have a good amount of answers now. The last answers coming in. So thank you very much. I end the poll now and share the results. And with this, over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Larissa, for the nice introduction. Thank you very much for having me today, and thanks everybody for joining. Really nice to see such a large crowd here in our session. I assume the acoustics and meaning the audio and the video are fine. And just coming back to the initial poll result, that is really almost meeting my expectations. And you should by now be able to see my screen. PowerPoint, if you would kindly go to full screen, presenter mode. Aha, okay. Let me quickly switch my screens and then we'll be good to go.
We can see your screen, Michael, but just the presentation mode is missing, but I think it will start right now.
Yep, my PC somehow is a little bit slow today. I'm not sure what it's doing right now. You can probably also see the wheel instead of the mouse.
But maybe you can already start with the
Exactly.
topic of the session, and I'm sure that the PowerPoint will jump immediately on the screen.
Thanks, Larissa. Right, our topic today, and I think this really hits what we've seen in the entry poll. The question or the topic that we have for today's presentation is differentiating your core ERP with SAP S/4HANA. You could also phrase that differently by saying, in which way is SAP S/4HANA really different from ECC, from the business suite, from the world that at least half of you are still very much familiar with today, and what are the benefits? Knowing well that the benefit question is really hard to answer, because we have by now, S/4HANA has been out since almost 9 years now, and we are approaching 27,000 customers on S/4HANA, which means we have customers live on S/4HANA in all regions, in all industries, in all company sizes, whatever criteria you might think of. And that also means there is no silver bullet. There is no simple answer applying to all customers to the question of why is it really a benefit for us to move to S/4HANA. It would really be good to have slides now.
I can see that you're struggling a bit with your screen, but
PowerPoint, but we'll be.
Let's see. We will try to reinitiate the presentation in the background. So, and we'll.
My sharing has stopped. Is that right?
Yes, this is true.
That's okay. Yeah, PowerPoint is still opening again. Sorry about that. We'll be back with the slides in a second. Yeah, as said, the goal of this session is to answer the question, in which way is S/4HANA different and better? What did we do differently? And there are a couple of aspects to that. I'm sure you all have heard about our new UX Fiori. I'm sure you all have heard about the new platform or database that we've chosen for SAP S/4HANA for the next generation of our ERP, which has given us and which is giving you, our customers, tremendous advantages. Running your infrastructure, running your system, because we are now able to cover everything through a single stack. And that brings enormous advantages when it comes to performance, when it comes to doing upgrades safer and better. And let me now go back to screen share. Oh, Krena, you've taken over.
Yes, so we have the
Perfect.
screen of Krena.
Just let me know when to go to the next page.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that help, Krena. Much appreciated. So as already said in the beginning, we already have quite a large number, if you look at the timeline, on S/4HANA, on all deployment models. Approaching 27,000, still quite a way to go, as with many of you. And with that, let's move on to the next slide. I'm going to talk about very briefly, the vision and strategy of SAP, but very, very briefly, the second part of my presentation is going to be about the differentiators, meaning the 5 answers to the question, what is actually different and better in SAP S/4HANA compared to the classic world? And finally, useful information. We have a collection of links that are definitely helpful for you to get more deeper information if you are looking for it. Next slide, please. Vision and strategy. Next slide, please. I'm sure you've already seen our current product portfolio chart. Without much further ado, you still see the centerpiece of it is Cloud ERP, and that, of course, these days meaning still S/4HANA, preferably in a cloud setup for the well-known reasons. Data security, for example, is becoming increasingly an issue and a challenge, which can, as we've seen with one very prominent example in Germany, a battery producer in southern Germany, they actually had gone out of business due to a cyber attack. So thinking twice about, do I really want to run? Is it really my core business to run my ERP system myself? Or could that be something which I'm outsourcing? That's definitely an important and ever more important question. Next slide, please. Our job is to make you, our customers, successful by scanning the new technologies that are available. We'll come to that when it comes to, for example, the intelligent topic, but we are also providing S/4HANA in different flavors. For example, for companies who can do with a more structure, with a, not necessarily structured, but let's say more standardized SaaS-like kind of approach. For this type of customer, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition is definitely the deployment model of choice. For our installed base customers coming from ECC, the standard path is to go on S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, because this cloud model really gives you the kind of liberties and options to run the business the way you want to run it, and adopt it to your business needs is what you need. Next slide, please. I'm sure you've seen one or the other version of this slide before. We call it our solution map, and it nicely describes what we have in SAP S/4HANA functionality-wise. The light and dark blue area showing the functionalities, or to be exact, the business areas that are covered within the S/4HANA software stack. And the white area showing the functionalities that are coming in the shape of cloud applications, knowing well that SAP is moving from monolithic architectures to hybrid scenarios where flexible cloud applications definitely play a role for the future of our customers. Next slide, please. So the differentiators, next one, please, are what did we do differently in SAP S/4HANA compared to the Business Suite or ECC? First box on the left-hand side, new platform and a new architecture with implications for analytics. Second thing, state-of-the-art UI. We all love SAP GUI, but SAP Fiori is the way to go. Intelligent technologies. Our ambition for S/4HANA is not just to be an electronic filing cabinet, like I can bring my data in safely and get it out again in a structured way, but I want my next generation ERP system to make use of the data that is in my system, because that data reflects knowledge about the way I'm doing my specific business, about the aspects in which I'm better than my competition. And of course, our customers are looking for tools to make use of that data, not just to automate, but also together with new technologies to be able to manage completely new business processes and business models. New business processes and functionalities. We use the opportunity of this generational change of ERP software. It's really comparable to the times when we went from R2 to R3, or from R3 to the Business Suite. And these points in time give us the opportunity to kind of clean up the house, to let go of things that weren't successful, to get rid of duplicates, and to completely, from scratch, redevelop things based on latest technologies, and that is what we did. At the same time, making sure that the path into S/4HANA from the ECC world is as non-disruptive as possible. And finally, the fifth and last topic, which I'm going to touch rather shortly, out-of-the-box integration, where SAP has made large progress, also with the help of our business technology platform, which is the central layer in our architecture, ensuring that all cloud components, all on-premise components that may be in your landscape, are able to talk to each other seamlessly. At the bottom of the slide, you will find a link. Just go, thank you. And this link leads to the full version of the deck, of which I'm today presenting just a subset to you. It is a roughly 300-page deck, and it consists of, first of all, let's say an intro chapter, generically explaining the 5 differentiators, and then we are going LOB by LOB through SAP S/4HANA. So for procurement, for manufacturing, for sales, etc., explaining what each of these 5 differentiators mean in the respective LOB context and giving examples. Next slide, please. Thank you, Kana. So let's start on the left-hand side with SAP HANA, with our new platform. And one of the things that we are changing, and that is really a generational change, is the database or the platform. We are moving from the classical relational database in any database, meaning multiple database scenario, to a HANA-only scenario. And that means, technically speaking, when you do a system conversion to HANA, the technical data structures change quite significantly. Why? Because HANA uses a combination of row-based and column-based data storage. Each of those has its advantages in OLTP and OLAP scenarios. But what we are seeing with a look at the database are 2 major effects. One is the database sizes are going down drastically in most cases. We've seen, let's say, in some industries who are notorious for really large databases like retail or utilities, we've seen database sizes before conversion of roughly 70 terabytes going down to less than 30, just to give you one example. And this is still huge, right? 30 terabytes, this still needs quite some knowledge, and is probably another reason for thinking about, do I really want to run this infrastructure myself? Or would I want to make use of an experienced provider for that? So while the technical database, the technical structures here are changing, and you're seeing it from yellow to blue here, we still ensure continuity or compatibility, if you want. Even if many of the database fields that we have on the yellow side, which we don't need anymore, aggregates, indices, so many things that were introduced in the relational database times for performance optimization, which we could simply scrap because we now have, number 2, that is important, an in-memory database. So I don't need aggregated data to be physically stored somewhere. I can pull my data in real time and work with it. And I don't need separate data extracts for lists or for a BW or whatever I want. And we are ensuring the compatibility here by a new element. It's basically an additional layer on top of the data dictionary. We call it CDS views, our core data services. And one of its purposes really is to ensure compatibility with the classic structures, data structures. And therefore, you still will find most of the yellow boxes that you're seeing in the center of the slide on your S/4HANA system, but they are no longer database tables. They are simply structures with a mapping into the HANA database, which also means that you can continue using the programs that you may have written. Next slide, please. The second big change which we decided for was in the classic world, the Enterprise Central Component, ECC, and the add-on solutions, industry solutions, LOB solutions like cash management, etc. They required a separate license, and they were also technically separate. So you licensed them, you had to download something, install it on your system. And going forward, that was not an architecture which we wanted to keep. Because over time, as maybe some of you who are underway in multiple industries and want to run a single instance, incompatibilities have evolved over time. And therefore we said, hey, this is not the architecture of the future. And therefore, since the very beginning, we began to integrate all of our solutions into a single consolidated and harmonized S/4HANA stack so that I can run multiple industry solutions on the same box plus my LOB solutions. And guess what? We are seeing that upgrades are actually running a lot faster and a lot cheaper in S/4HANA environments than they did in the past. And when you think of it, that was even a little bit selfish because SAP these days is a cloud provider. So we are running S/4HANA ourselves for our customers. So we also have a strong interest ourselves to provide a really high performance and highly efficient infrastructure, highly efficient architecture to you. Next slide, please. That is the slide where a phrase goes through my head which says, we are bringing you back to real time. And I'm really serious about that. Think of what the R in R2 and R3 meant. It meant real time, but look at many business suite installations, landscapes at our customers. You usually don't simply have an ERP system and a BW. You probably have an SCM system and a SIF interface with huge amounts of data flowing through this, maybe an additional CRM system, etc., etc. And these installations quite often are not really real time, with MRP runs taking all through the night, with, as already said, really huge amounts of data being copied from one system to another. That's not real time. That is not the architecture that is going to take you, our customers, through the next 5 to 10 years. And the answer, again, is S/4HANA being built on our HANA platform, the row-based in-memory database, which allows you to get your processing back to real time so that you can run an MRP run anytime during the day, so that you can actually work on fresh data and not on the MRP list data that you're probably relying on today, but which is probably 5 or 6 hours old, and the world has turned and changed in the meantime. That's not what you want to work with going forward. And this also has other nice side aspects, for example, for analytics. Next slide, please. Okay, we've got another, let's say, architectural view here, which is showing you on the modeling level the CDS models, which are just described as being kind of the logical layer through which any program access, API access, etc., is going also for our own development, right? Our own developers never access HANA tables directly. Everything goes through CDS views. And by the way, you can also build your own CDS views. If you need some, technically speaking, it really looks pretty, let's say, normal SQL-ish, so it's really not rocket science at all. What does that mean for analytics? Well, of course, together with our new user interface, which I'm coming to in a minute, our ambition for analytics in S/4HANA is to make sure that our users, our end users, are being directed to those areas in their daily work where their attention is needed. And that is what we achieve with our analytics tools, with our real-time data processing. And next slide, please. Of course, to a certain degree, also with the intelligent technologies that I'm coming to in a minute. You're seeing a couple of classical Fiori screens, which we have arranged in a kind of logical sequence. The first screen you're getting into is the My Fiori home screen, which you'll see in a minute. After that, you'll go into kind of a start screen or an overview screen. And by now, we are shipping these overview screens for all kinds of roles. We have a procurement overview screen, a sales overview screen, whatever you can think of. And that is really giving you a set of tiles, which you can, of course, personalize, configure. Which tiles do I see? What kinds of data are being shown there and how is it being shown there? And that is, of course, directly the place where I want to see the red lights which are blinking, right? What is it that I need to look at first? Where is my attention needed? And from there, you can then drill down into the so-called Fiori analytical list pages, which is what you see at the bottom of the screen. And there again, the built-in analytics help you. If, for example, the third bar on the left is what you're interested in, you will just click on that bar and the list of the detail data at the very bottom of the screen will be filtered down to exactly this subset of data. And this is then where you can start your work. Next slide, please. All completely unthinkable in the business suite world. And let's say, design paradigm, which is sitting on top of this, is called SAP Fury. It's first of all not a technology, it's a design paradigm, a design concept, formulating what a modern and up-to-date UX should look like. One that, of course, is, as opposed to SAP GUI, able to run on all kinds of front ends, on all kinds of devices. That is, of course, the expectation that on your tablet, on your smartphone, you can run the same processes, the same Fiori apps, and this is what Fiori brings to you. Plus, as already explained, the attention, the focus to the points that need your focus. Next slide, please. That is the so-called Fiori home screen. It's pretty recent, and as said, collection of tiles can be personalized as you like it, can be substructured in spaces and pages. And let me just highlight one more thing here, which didn't exist in ECC and the Business Suite, and that is the Google-like search field, if you want. You see it on the very top of the screenshot. You can type in any type of search term that you are looking for, and your system will revert back to you any kind of object in your system that fits, like apps, like master data, like processing data, like whatever. Super comfortable. You can also restrict that search by saying, I only want to look in apps, I only want to look in other types of data objects and look for a certain term. And that alone was already something from the very start, which many customers really cherished and valued a lot. Next slide, please. It's, of course, a never-ending story. We keep building out our UX, like, for example, with release 2023, which we just launched in fall of last year. We brought out a direct integration to Microsoft Teams to really have a seamless integration here to this software. Next slide, please. Now let me say a few words about our intelligent technologies, or let me rephrase it in the sense of, like I said in the beginning, we have a clear ambition for SAP S/4HANA. It's not only supposed to be a little bit faster, a little bit nicer, it's really a game changer. It's really a completely new generation. And SAP is constantly on the lookout for the latest intelligent technologies and make them available to you so that you can run your business better, more efficiently, and probably in a transformed kind of way. There are four main groups of intelligent technologies that I would like to go through briefly. The first one is digital assistants. Then we'll briefly look at process automation, formerly known as robotics process automation. Then we've got machine learning in various flavors, and then situation handling, which is also brand new with SAP S/4HANA. So let's get into it. First topic, next slide please, is the digital assistants. When you look at the state of things in SAP S/4HANA, the first digital assistant that you will meet is the so-called collaboration manager. Exactly It's actually a little close to what we used to have a couple of years ago as the Copilot, but in a much more evolved and slimmer kind of way. It provides chat capabilities for peer-to-peer communication, and it is enriched with business context. Now, what do I mean by that? A simple chat function, like I have it in any tool, wouldn't provide much extra value. The collaboration manager does in a different way by providing business context. What does that mean? Say I'm working in inside sales and I want to push through a customer order which needs to go out urgently. So I need to somehow inform my colleagues in the distribution department. How do I do that? Do I walk around the corner to their office? Do I pick up the phone? Well, why not using the collaboration manager? Because what I can do is I can send a screenshot of this particular sales order that I want to get delivered today to my colleague in the distribution department. And this screenshot, which I'm sending over to that colleague, is not just a bitmap, meaning a graphic, but instead this chat that I'm sending over allows my colleague receiving the message to double-click on that particular incoming chat and then open any transaction that might be relevant for me, like create a delivery note with the context information that the system knows anyway, like the sales order number, the customer number, anything that the context of the transaction that I've been starting from is being transferred over to the recipient of the chat, and he can immediately grab this object and keep working on it. Just a very small example. Nice thing really for, let's say, not so 100% structured communication on a peer-to-peer level. The other important digital assistant here, which needs to be mentioned, is our Copilot Joule, the Copilot for S/4HANA Private Cloud Edition. And this is really our interface to the up-to-date intelligent world. The next slide, please. We are intentionally designing our intelligent technologies to be transparent or layered, because on the one hand, there will be many applications who want to call intelligent services, intelligent models or apps. At the same time, there are many, many different kinds of intelligent scenarios or models. We've all heard of and probably played around with large language models. Then we've got the classic data analytics based models, which are also, by the way, part of our HANA platform, the predictive analytics integrator. And I'm sure there are defined scenarios when which of these models is best suited. So hardwiring the use cases with the technology is not a good idea, and that is what you're currently seeing on this screen here on the upper part of the slide. Our architecture for the intelligent technologies is intentionally open. We have Joule as the central entry point. Then we have some embedded AI capabilities, for example, in S/4HANA, but also in other applications. And then we've got those side-by-side AI scenarios, which don't make sense in an embedded kind of way, which only makes sense by calling an external, probably cloud-based AI service, like in the case of the large language models. You don't want to have those, and you can't have those in your S/4HANA or in your HANA database. So that is why we have kind of this abstraction layered model for the AI scenarios. And this is definitely flexible enough an architecture that is going to take us through the coming use cases and through the exciting developments that are about to come up in the area of intelligent use cases. Next slide, please. Here's one example, and this is already one showing that in many cases you will see a combination of not only AI in a narrower sense, but also automation through SAP Build automation, also known as robotics process automation. The example scenario that we have here is we have got an incoming purchase order email from a customer, meaning this is a sales order for us. So we can handle this either completely the manual way, and that is kind of the horizontal line here. On the slide, we could have a person like an internal sales rep opening these emails, analyzing them, uploading the PDF into S/4HANA, seeing what kind of data that's being given through the email fits into which structured data in my S/4HANA system. I could type it in as the internal sales rep, then validate it, and finally post and process the sales order. Here, huge degrees of automation are possible. Like I would have an RPA bot monitoring this functional inbox where all the purchase order emails are coming in. And this IRPA bot would then automatically upload the PDF to SAP S/4HANA, would also at the same time send the PDF to our document information extraction service, probably something like optical character recognition plus AI, which would bring back the data from the PDF in a structured way into S/4HANA and sort them into the respective data fields, where then probably after a final end user validation, the sales order would be set up and ready for processing. Next slide, please. We've got multiple more examples of these. I'm not going to through the details here in that example, but you're again seeing a business process for order to cash with a combination of multiple technologies like process automation, like machine learning per se, and situation handling, which we'll come to in a minute. Next slide, please. Which gives you an overview of the intelligent scenarios that we have already delivered with SAP S/4HANA. As you can see, it's going across all kinds of application, finance, sales, supply chain, etc., etc. And as you've certainly heard in the press, we keep working to build out those and, of course, to add new scenarios, making use of large language models, Gen AI, and whatever new technologies are coming around the corner. Next slide, please. Now we are kind of back to S/4HANA, the software stack itself, with the next box, which means new processes and functionalities. We also have kind of an animated version of this slide where the different releases, you can see the releases, the main releases in the respective columns come flying in, but that doesn't go down too well in PDF. So we've got this rather static version, but it's giving you a nice overview of what we brought into S/4HANA at which point in time. And a couple of these things are really completely brand new and built from scratch. Think of, at the very beginning, the unified general ledger and a couple of other innovations in finance. Think of advanced ATP, the available to promise extension that allows you to really implement the logic that enables your system to allocate your material in scarcity situations to those customers where you want it to be allocated according to certain criteria. Completely redeveloped, making full use of the HANA platform. And the same applies to advanced variant configuration. I'm sure many of you are using the classic variant configuration, LOVC, today. And let me tell you what, I worked with it as a consultant in 1999, and yes, I hated it. you had to code a lot, and coding is not client specific. So that has implications. I have seen companies having dedicated systems just in order to be able to develop configuration logic. And so when we sat down in 2014 and decided about what to do in S/4HANA with this functionality, we said, okay, we have to keep the classic variant configuration LOVC in, because we want to ensure that our customers can get from ECC to the S/4HANA world as non-disruptively as possible and bring their models, which they have evolved and invested a lot into over time. So what we did was we side by side completely built from scratch a new variant configuration engine with simulation capabilities, as you would imagine it, with debugging, tracing, anything you can think of. Completely everything happening within a single client, of course, extensible with ABAP means if I want to, but the, let's say, extensibility and customizing opportunities or possibilities within the advanced variant configuration are miles better than they used to be with the classic variant configuration. I think that is a great example for demonstrating that it was really important to us to build the new world that will take you through the next 5 to 10 years based on the latest available technologies, and at the same time making sure that you can move from the classic world into the new world as seamlessly as possible. The same applies to, where is it? Product compliance, 1909, safety data sheets, dangerous goods, and these kinds of things. We followed the same approach, the classic EHS product safety with the specification database is part of the perpetual scope of S/4HANA. So you can keep on using your specification database and your EHS. While we keep building out the product compliance functionalities, we are kind of on the final stages with safety data sheet generation, which is hugely complicated. Then at some point in time, when you see that all your requirements are covered in the new world and the new product compliance solution, then it's time to move over to a much nicer, much more efficient workflow-driven model than it has ever been in the past. Then we've got a couple of boxes in here where we followed the industry to core principle. Remember, bringing everything into a consolidated software stack. You're seeing with release 1610, extended warehouse management, 1709, transportation management, all former parts of SCM, constraint-based planning, also known as PPDS2. All of that is now integrated into the S/4HANA software stack, more or less unchanged data model so that you can bring your data along with you in the case of a system conversion without many changes. Stockroom management. Those of you who are using LEWM, LEWM is not a strategic solution, but we kept 90% of it in S/4HANA as perpetual scope for simple scenarios. And that's what stockroom management means. If you have a, let's say, not very sophisticated storage hall, probably with some shelves, and this would be it. We kept LEWM on board for this type of storage scenario, but when it comes to integration with warehouse, other warehouse computers or software, wave management, whatever, yard management, then EWM is the home of the future for that functionality. Yeah, maybe one more thing, carbon footprint data and sourcing. That reminds me of the sustainability topic. Another very popular topic, and everybody says, hey, sustainability, yes, of course I want to do it, but just go one level deeper and the topic completely explodes into a multitude of subtopics if you want. And as if that wasn't bad enough, many of these subtopics in sustainability are completely separate and have zero overlap with their neighbors. So anything from financial sustainability, Compliance, think product compliance. Environmental reporting, CO2 equivalents, scope 1 to 3 calculations. So it's really a huge bandwidth. And what we at SAP are doing is basically two things. The first thing is, and that is becoming visible in the carbon footprint data and sourcing. We are building sustainability-related KPIs into our business processes, because just as normal as quantities and values in currencies are being calculated as your business processes unfold, we also need to track and write these sustainability KPIs like carbon-related data. Think of planning and executing a transport. When I'm planning a transport, I probably want to know already during the planning phase, what kind of CO2 am I producing when I'm sending this via passenger plane or when I'm sending this via truck on the road. And this is what we are building into our systems. Just like, again, back to this little blue square, carbon footprint data and sourcing, when I'm using our product procurement sourcing solution, we can send RFQs to our suppliers, and we can make carbon data part of this collection of data from our suppliers for their RFQs, and thus get CO2 equivalent related data in a structured format from them. Next slide, please. Here we have again another overview of the functionalities that we've completely rewritten. I've already mentioned a couple of those. Some are really flashy and ready for prime time. Others are really just helpful. Think of the classic rebate management. Some of you may have had fun with a table called VBOX, which we've seen going to gigabyte and beyond sizes at some of our customers, pulling down the performance of the classic rebate management functionality, which we've replaced with settlement management. And that is just great. Next slide, please. Yeah, out-of-the-box integration. Around 5 years ago, SAP was criticized, and probably rightfully so, for not doing the best of jobs in integration. We have invested a lot. We have caught up a lot on the deficiencies of the past. Our business technology platform is the central hub for integration in hybrid landscapes, especially with a homogeneous data model being implemented across our solutions. And I actually would like to kind of move on to the next slide with that. Which again shows more on a process kind of like view. What I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the architecture of SAP solutions will move away from monolithic structures to sets of flexible cloud-based apps which talk to each other, communicate with each other in real time based on the HANA platform through the business technology platform. And that is, by the way, something, next slide, please, which you will also increasingly see in the way how we document things. The types of documentation that you're seeing from SAP, like our user documentation, like the feature scope description of S/4HANA, which is a hugely important document. This is mostly functional documentation. I'm sure you are familiar with the basic dimensions of modeling. I have functional models, I have data models, I have process models, I have organizational models, I have architectural models. So we've been, for the past couple of decades, pretty much on the functional side, but we'll be moving very much towards the process side. And this becomes probably even more transparent when you think of using our Signavio tools, because big surprise, our customers think in business processes. And therefore, when they go into a transformation, we need to provide tools that allow them to really do a transformation, not in the sense of just putting my good old business processes to a different technical platform and just running the same processes, but by doing things differently. That is what business transformation means. And please, dear IT guys, don't make your business a spectator in your project, and don't make them a victim. Make them a stakeholder. Ask your business, where do you want to be in 5 years, and what can we as IT contribute to that? There are plenty of new technologies at the start which can help you with that. And looking at things in a process kind of way definitely helps with that. And that is what this slide, next slide please, is also showing you. You've seen it in the upper right-hand corner of these slides. This is where I can show KPIs, where I can measure how long does it take from customer order entry until the money is ringing in my cash register, for example. That is something that only a process view can give me across LOBs and across functions. And that, as said, is something which we've been working on quite intensively over the last couple of years, and of which you will very soon see more on the front end. Next slide, please. Okay, recruit to retire, same in human capital management, of course. We can move on. And with that, I've almost arrived at my last slide. We've been publishing roadmap information, what is coming up next on PowerPoint formats and on PDF formats. For the last 2 or 3 years now, we have stopped that, and we are publishing all roadmap information through one centralized tool, one platform, and that is our Roadmap Explorer, in which you can filter. Again, yeah, it's hard to see, but in which you also have kind of a Google-like search field, and you can filter in all the innovations for a technical product, be it S/4HANA, be it Emasis, be it SuccessFactors. You can filter for a certain solution capability, meaning functionally, what's new in product compliance at which point in time. You can filter for processes. You can filter for hire to retire if you're interested in HCM stuff. And then, of course, also save a certain view which you've collected together and which is extremely interesting for you. And what we have also included and built into the Roadmap Explorer is, besides showing innovations which are just for products like S/4HANA, we have also built in views, for example, for RISE, because as you know, RISE is kind of a package and you're getting much more than just quote unquote S/4HANA Private Cloud Edition. There are other products also in the bag. And as said, we have some views for that in the Roadmap Explorer. Next slide, please. And even better than knowing what's being cooked in the kitchen, we'd like to, or I would like to encourage you to get into the kitchen yourself and help us cook, meaning influence our roadmap, make your voice heard. We have various options here to do that, to provide feedback and to influence SAP's roadmap. You're seeing the list. I'm not going to read down through it. The link on this particular slide is bringing you to the blog, of which you are seeing a screenshot of my colleague Anja Wilde. And this will provide more detailed information in a more structured way of how you can make your voice heard. Next slide, please.
That was the last slide.
Okay,
Michael.
Thank you, Krena. Thank you for doing the DJ. Now we've got a whopping 4 minutes left for Q&A. Larissa, what have we got?
Thank you, Michael. We have a couple of questions in Q&A tool, so let's start with the first one. Is S/4HANA solution industry agnostic? How is industry-specific requirements in current ECC moved to S/4HANA?
Very good question. I would say there are some industry agnostic functionalities. So you have to do a balance sheet as a company. You have to do a P&L that is kind of, as a function, industry agnostic. However, we have taken almost all industry solutions from the ECC world, from the classic world, into S/4HANA, and you've seen the slide with the architecture. We have homogenized the architecture. We've brought all the solutions or almost all solutions into a single software stack, ensuring a much lower TCO, faster upgrades and everything.
Okay, thanks for that. The next question is, please explain the system architecture of combined S/4HANA and SAP BTP. Are they on same cloud infrastructure? How are users provisioned in S/4HANA in combination with BTP?
Okay, so cloud infrastructure, they are actually different, let's say different infrastructures, but they seamlessly work together. One of the reasons being we are giving our RISE customers, meaning customers on S/4HANA Private Cloud, a choice of data centers. So depending on your case, depending on your preferences, you can have your S/4HANA instance hosted by one of the hyperscalers. Probably you need one which is able to run certified environments because of FDA and other stuff. And therefore, we cannot pull everything onto all platforms. But as said, this absolutely seamlessly works together with BTP. What another part of the question was, why do I need BTP? What does it do? We've seen one example. It's kind of the gateway for side-by-side intelligence scenarios, managing the calls to intelligent services. Another important use case for BTP is data management, right? Think of integration and having a consistent data model and one place which is something like a hub where I'm managing my data no matter where it is stored safely, and that is BTP. Next thing, why I need BTP. Think of something that we call clean core and getting rid of modifications and trying to isolate customer-specific developments, which you will still want to do in the future, but trying to keep them out of my ERP core in order to keep this core clean, easily upgradable, less effort in that. And we've taught BTP to speak ABAP slightly differently than the ABAP on your ERP system, but bringing them to BTP and thus having them separated out is a huge advantage.
All right, thanks for that. The next question is, what is the maximum size of a HANA database in the RISE cloud?
To be honest, I'm not aware of maximum sizes. As said, we have some experiences with industries notorious for huge databases, which go far beyond 30 terabytes on the S4 side. I've mentioned the 70 plus terabytes on the classic side. So no need to be afraid of big databases. Really, we've got the infrastructure providers enlisted who know how to handle this.
So they're probably extendable.
Sure.
The next one, as per my understanding, Joule will be provided as free in S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition.
No, Joule will not be provided for free. There may be in some RISE packages, let's say something like a contingent, like you know it from CPEA, from BTP, that you probably have a certain amount of Joule if you want as part of your RISE package, depending on which package it is. But Joule for sure is not for free.
So the next one, I came across Gartner reports saying that a lot of SAP ECC customers are still sitting on the fence and not taken up S/4HANA. More than 60% are yet to buy S/4HANA. What is the main reason for this? Is SAP not able to sell the value of S/4HANA, or the price is too exorbitant to many of them, or they don't like the fact that it is no perpetual licensing option available?
Let me say something about the last point. Of course, there is a perpetual licensing option available. I don't know who told you that. We do differentiate between the scope that we deliver through the cloud and the scope that we deliver through on-premise, but there is a perpetual licensing option and it will not go away. And we also promised mainstream maintenance for S/4HANA on-premise until at least 2040. Show me a single other IT provider who does that. Yes, Gartner is not entirely wrong. There's still a lot of work to do. As I said in the beginning, we have so many and so diverse customer cases. Usually each customer has to find his own way to find out what is my optimal strategy and what kind of approach do I take. Do I do a greenfield? Probably, even though I already have a couple of ERP implementations. Or do I do a pure brownfield, knowing well that I will not be able to take advantage when I'm not using Fiori of all the great new things that I outlined, because all new developments in S/4HANA come with Fiori. And if I'm not using Fiori, I'm back to where I was before. So the business benefits of a pure conversion are usually extremely limited, and that's why we recommend not to do it, but instead do a real transformation, involve your business, improve your processes. That brings you benefits.
Right, thank you for that. I hope this answered the question. The next one is, who are the main competitors of SAP in the S/4HANA messaging? Do we have any info on how better it is against Oracle or other ERPs?
To be honest, that question is a bit too broad. And again, very much depending on the customer cases. There are some industries where, let's say, the ability to choose between on-premise, private cloud, and public cloud, and having a consistent data model and being able to apply whichever model is best suited for me is really, really, really important. If you are looking at, let's say, a rather small company, which is probably, not requiring too much customization and customer-specific things, then probably a SaaS application is a good choice as well. So very much, again, going back to my favorite statement as a consultant, it depends.
Right, thank you for that. The next question is, which of the innovations mentioned are available for S/4HANA on-prem, or why does SAP no longer support the S/4HANA on-prem variant?
Again, we do continue to support the S/4HANA on-prem deployment model. There will be innovations, and by the way, all of the examples that I've given, variant configuration, product compliance, etc., those are also available to on-premise. We will see some differentiations with functionalities which just make more sense or only sense in a cloud environment. Let me take AI, large language models, as an example. The success of AI depends on the quantity and the quality of data. If I don't have this, it doesn't scale. If you look at the, let's say, diversity of configurations of data setups that we have in our on-premise installed base, it's huge. I think Christian Klein said we have something like 200 different scenarios of customers in the on-prem world. How do you want this to scale? For example, in an AI scenario, which relies on huge amounts of high quality data. How do you want to manage this and scale this as a cloud, as an AI provider, in a situation where I have hundreds of different structures sitting at the other end? A data scientist wouldn't never be able to kind of bring this together and get it to scale. Same applies to a certain degree to central scenarios, central finance, central procurement. So there are good reasons for SAP to provide some things in a cloud-only mode.
Right, thanks for that. It's actually an additional question to what I've just said. Are there available innovation for on-prem visible in Roadmap Explorer? By the way, I've just placed the link to Roadmap Explorer in the
Very
chat.
good. Thank you, Larissa. Yes, they are. So you will see an evolution there. As of now, in the Roadmap Explorer, when you see an innovation which is earmarked as SAP S/4HANA, then this applies to both on-premise and private cloud. We are actually working at differentiating this model. So probably still within 2024, you will explicitly see a product SAP S/4HANA on-premise and another product SAP S/4HANA Private Cloud Edition as kind of a tag to our innovations. So as of today, it's still kind of on-prem and PCE together. But going forward, as said, hopefully still this year, we will differentiate this out a lot clearer.
All right. Thank you for that. I can't see additional questions in Q&A tool. Let me check the chat. The chat is also empty. And we are, by the way, already over the time. So I assume that most of the questions were answered. The registrants will also receive the link to recording and to the PDF. And of course, we are also as contact persons are also available. With this, I can only thank you, Michael, for your presentation, for sharing your insights with us. And of course, thank you very much to the audience for being with us. I can only encourage you to stay tuned and to join our session next week. The topic will be on what basics do I need to know, which is very important also, especially as we will be, so let me put the, oh, it didn't work. So I will just put the link to the next session to the chat. And so then your link to upcoming session. So with this, I can see a lot of positive reactions, applause and smileys, and thank you for that. And the most of the applause go to Michael, of course, for the information and things that he shared with us. And with this, again, thank you very much. Stay tuned. We'll be happy to welcome you in the session next week. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.